Welcome to Missouri Caves and Speleology. This will be an online course talking about caves in Missouri and speleology, where we talk about how caves are formed and studied. I'm Doug Guzet. I'll be one of the instructors, and my colleague here,
Toby Dogweiler,
will be our other instructor. We've got an 8-lesson course here assembled for you. We'll tell you a little bit about who you're learning from and a little bit about what we'll cover there. And we'll give you some resources that we'll talk about using throughout the semester here. So a little bit about myself. I'm a geology professor here at Missouri State, and I have a PhD from the University of Kentucky. Later on you'll hear about a guy named John Threlkill who studied the water chemistry of how water and rock dissolve to make caves. He was my PhD mentor, and I did quite a bit of work in caves in Kentucky. Toby?
As we said earlier, my name's Toby Dogweiler. My PhD is in geology and geography from the University of Missouri-Columbia. I studied under Dr. Carol Wicks while I was at the University of Missouri, and under Dr. John Milroy while I was at Mississippi State University. And during that time I studied caves in the Bahamas and throughout North America with a main interest in water resources applications.
And I think you'll find that we've got a pretty broad variety. Like I said, I've studied primarily in Kentucky, but I've also worked in caves in Puerto Rico and Florida and Georgia, and I think Toby's worked in Minnesota along with the Bahamas and other areas. We're going to focus primarily on caves of Missouri as our learning in our lesson, because I've been here 12 years and Toby's been here a few more years, and we're working on assembling some pretty good knowledge of that. But we're going to bring in all of the cave knowledge we have from places around the world. You've been to several places in Slovenia, I think, even, and other areas.
Yeah. And Missouri really is a great place to learn and talk about caves and how they form, because Missouri has over 5,000 caves. Maybe it's even over 6,000 now officially, 7,000 now. And Missouri is a state that is dominated by karst and is known for it all the way back to Sam Clemens.
Yeah, good point. Mark Twain for
Mark
some of
Twain.
us. And yeah, and Missouri not only has all those caves, but it has all the sinkholes and other features that go with that, disappearing streams and springs and things like that. Last number I saw, actually, we're up over to 15,000 known and mapped sinkholes in the state.
Wow. And many of the communities in Missouri, including Springfield, where we live and where the Missouri State University is, have karst and caves and springs and sinkholes all around us, and we have to, our city's planned to deal with those hazards, and something we have to take into account for everything we do. So it's very much here a part of our everyday life.
And in fact, my specialty is sinkholes, and I know sometimes we don't plan on dealing with that hazard, but we still get to deal with it.
Yes.
But yeah, we live right on top of this this world and this system that's kind of unique.
Yeah.
So for the next 8 weeks, we'll talk about that, and we'll have lesson plans up there for you. I think maybe for right now, we could also give you a few resources that if you're interested in more, or if you're interested in getting them to follow along, you might find these very useful. I brought 2 books today that I use a lot. One is simply called Caves, and I have to read it myself, Processes, Development, and Management. It's by David Gillison. It was published, I believe, in 1996, and you can probably find it on lots of places online or campus bookstores and other universities. It would be one of my kind of go-to references. The other one would be a newer book, I believe it was about 2007, called Cave Geology, written by a gentleman, Arthur Palmer. Art's a well-known caver and well-known geomorphologist, a scientist studying the shape and landforms of the earth. I've been caving with Art. I have some pictures maybe I'll dig out that have Art and I a little muddy after coming out of a cave down in Arkansas. I think these 2 books, the Gillison and the Palmer book, would probably be what I'd call our core texts if you wanted. And I think we'll try to index our lessons to kind of where they fit in either book if you're able to get one of them more than the other. But we also have other resources that Toby will mention.
Yeah, as Doug mentioned, we're showing you a variety of textbooks here. If you want to get a textbook to do additional reading, we encourage you to look around, pick which one you like the best, pick which one you can get for the best price. We'll post on the course website index that if we're talking about a specific topic that will list which chapter and which textbook that is, so you can use any of yours. One of the classic textbooks in karst geology is the Geomorphology and Hydrology of Karst Terrains by Will White. This is nearly 30 years old now, but it's still broadly used. I brought another choice. This is a book that goes back to the 90s also, or late 80s in the original publication, and has been updated in the last 10 years or so. Karst Hydrology and Geomorphology by Derek Ford and Paul Williams. Very good book, very comprehensive. One of the best things about this book, besides being well written and covering the topic well, is it's very well indexed. So when you have to find some information about a topic fast, it's a good one. This isn't so much a textbook about karst like the others is, but I thought I'd introduce it. It's also by Art Palmer, and we talked about his textbook. But it's a geological guide to Mammoth Cave National Park. So as far as I know, this is still for sale at Mammoth Cave in the Visitor Center. You can probably find it online too. And so it's very specific to Mammoth Cave, but it's also a relatively inexpensive book. I doubt it's more than $20. And he explains the basic ideas that he covers in more depth in his textbook about how caves form and so forth, just using Mammoth Cave as an example. Yeah. And for the budget conscious, we'll put a link to this online, and I have a black and white copy here, but it's a full color PDF file that's called Living with Karst, A Fragile Foundation, and it talks about how caves form, all the basics that we're going to cover in the course, plus a lot of the applied water resources issues about how you deal with karst, how you live on karst with communities, protect the water resources, the ecology, and so forth. So, and that's completely free.
And Living with Karst is an Adobe PDF file. I've forgotten how many megabytes. It's not a large file. It's about 60 pages, and it's a great overview of the whole science and the processes, and helps people understand it if you happen to live in an area that has this kind of karst landscape.
All right, that concludes the first module of the Missouri's Caves and Speleology. We've given you a good introduction of what we're going to do today, and we look forward to seeing you in the future modules.